10 Nightmare Arm. The arm at the end of the initial security breach teaser drove the internet mad for like a week before we ultimately just said we'll wait for the next trailer. And with the most recent, which was the last trailer before the game's release, we still had nothing about that arm. And I guess I can understand why, but it was still frustrating. So you can guess that when someone tagged me on Twitter at Centimeter Monroe and showed me a picture comparing the security breach arm to the arm of Nightmare Freddy, I'd be intrigued. So intrigued, in fact, that I actually got angry because if it's ever intended on being a Nightmare Freddy arm, I'm leaving, okay? These animatronics are perfectly content being illusions, okay? Or in a child's imagination running wild while his body is trying to save his life. But still, what the hell? How do these versions of Afton in an animatronic keep changing? They all have his body in it, so they must be intentionally the same endo, but then it keeps changing designs still. And a 9 Stitch Wraith. Seeing the Stitch Wraith was very unlikely, but I would have certainly enjoyed an appearance of the character, even if it was in a nightmare sequence like I had suggested in other videos, or maybe it was a brief passerby. I mean, it's not impossible, but I do think that one wasn't likely to happen. Even in a future DLC, I don't think it would happen. But it would certainly be interesting to be looking out a window or something in the Pizzaplex, although there's not really any windows, but it would still be interesting to see him out of the corner of our eye. However, we did used to believe that the Afton arm was in fact the Stitch Wraith, and some fans believe that Burntrap will actually turn into the game universe's version of the Stitch Wraith, which wouldn't rely on Phineas tag art and would probably work better for the story of the games, but I don't know. Based on everything we've seen, I don't think that William will be losing his face anytime soon. But what do you think? Do you think that William, or I guess Burntrap, will end up being the Stitch Wraith of the FNAF game universe, or do you think that we'll never see the Stitch Wraith in the games? Be sure to let me know down below. And it ain't not Afton. Some thoroughly believe that this animatronic, this new version of the Spring Bonnie animatronic, to not be William, and instead possibly be Henry Emily, William's business partner and father of his first victim. Why do they think this? No idea. However, I can kind of see why, but simply it's just due to inconsistencies, since seemingly the endo for this version of Springtrap also has the same endo as the Glamrock animatronics, or the ones that we see in what is honestly the scariest part of the game. Those are the only real endos that we see. Since if this was Afton, the endo should be the first version of the endoskeleton. My explanation for this is simply because they had this model for the endo in the files and they were rushing to release something after already delaying the game multiple times, so they used it and added the Springtrap bits onto it. And since he's so destroyed, it's really difficult to determine whether it's the same design as Scraptrap, and since Henry was also in the FNAF 6 location, it could be him technically, or at least he was around the location, but I still doubt it.
Number 7. Mini Rena and Biddy Bab. What if the Mini Renas and Biddy Babs were actually created by Ballora and Circus Baby, respectively? The interesting thing is we don't get close-up looks into the making of these smaller characters and, their blueprints, their behind the scenes. Is it possible because Ballora and Circus Baby in essence have souls that their individual consciousness might be capable of crafting their own animatronics? I'm not sure. There isn't a ton of evidence to support this theory, but I just kind of thought it was a cool idea, and to me it makes a lot of sense. After all, the Mini Renas look especially crude in comparison to animatronics like Ballora, and honestly any of the other animatronics in this game really, which could be an indicator that they were, made by someone still figuring out the ins and outs of animatronics. Not a master like William Afton, which, he would probably already be a master at this point. And we already know that Ennard was in part made by Circus Baby, using the other animatronics parts. So it could kind of actually make some weird sense for her to be making animatronics.
And at 6, AI. It is unknown how Glitchtrap was able to leave his body for the events of FNAF VR, or how he re-enters it for the events of Security Breach. Based on everything we know about the series, it should be impossible for Glitchtrap to exist if Afton isn't still inside Burntrap, especially if the one you should not have killed is keeping him alive still, since that would prevent Afton from escaping from his body. And despite a line of dialogue in the trailer clearly coming from some sort of William Afton, Burntrap never speaks throughout his entire encounter, which only makes this more confusing, since if he talked, we would know that he isn't an AI, but he doesn't talk, so we can't be sure if he is or not, since not talking doesn't exactly mean that he's an AI, since people can also choose not to talk. And the AIs in this game also talk, so at this point, we have no idea if he is or isn't an AI, which is really annoying. Although, I still believe that the one you should not have killed is Gregory, not Cassidy, but well, MatPat doesn't want to talk about it. He won't respond to my Twitter, okay? Or my Instagram. Or literally anything at this point. MatPat, please. let's talk about this. Halfway through into number 5, the movie isn't real. We all know about the Five Nights at Freddy's movie supposedly in development by the same studio that made Paranormal Activity, Blumhouse Studios. But what if that's not really going to happen? I could see something like this playing out, where instead of making a movie that they say the workers ended up dying on set, causing them to halt production. And while it may get some bad press, a series about dead kids possessing animatronics having real deaths associated with it would be incredible press, especially when the deaths are fake because they only wanted to use the movie as a boost to the games and the books. We've gotten part of a word on a potential plot, and then that's it. After Scott talked about the scripts on Reddit, he left it. We've heard nothing since, at least to my knowledge. And maybe the studio got the rights to the movie since they know how to handle paranormal press, something like that. Or they have a guy that can do that or something. Maybe they're trying to pull like a Blair Witch kind of thing. I don't know. I just think that the movie would make an actual metric boatload, and since Scott loves rushing games out every other month, it's a surprise that this movie hasn't come out yet, and that's suspicious, if you ask me. And at 4, survivors. It seems like everyone we've seen the true ending to Security Breach, including Burn Trap, are survivors of the FNAF 6 fire, which means that this would indeed be Scrap Trap or Spring Trap, but as to how he changed again, I have no idea. How do we know that this is everyone from FNAF 6 and not just William? Well, the Blob, which is a massive sized proportion of wire tentacles, because of course it is, and animatronic parts with possession of many glowing eyes. It has a whole load of them, okay? It has a mask that is identical to that of Funtime Freddy with black eyes, pinkish red glowing pupils, and like the endo face that reveals to have face plates rather than tubes, which is already a whole other can of worms that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. The Blob's body is a large mass of wire, like tentacles, and like it's basically what the sister location endos were made out of. However, it also appears to be a larger version of Molten Freddy from the Pizza Simulator Fire. Okay, but it's far bigger, and it has parts of other animatronics like Circus Baby, the Puppet, Chica for some reason, Mangle, Bonnie, and several Endo Mark IIs. And you know what? There's probably others, which again is a whole other can of worms that I don't want to touch. Getting close to the end, and number 3, the eyes. Okay, there are plenty of weird things going on with Princess Quest and Security Breach in general, but one of the weirdest things that I wanted to explain personally is the weird eyes that you can see in Princess Quest 3. The eyes appear in the room with all the conveyor belts, however they don't really do anything, they just appear to be a face that you can only see the eye area with. With the irises of these eyes being purple, I think it's safe to say that I believe that this is probably William watching Vanessa and making sure she stays locked up. The only way I can really describe this person is that they're white with purple eyes. That's pretty much just William Afton. Oh well, it's most related to William Afton since the only real detail we have, again, are purple eyes watching us from below the floor. So I think it's safe to say that that's most likely William. It's certainly something to look into further, maybe. It being William watching Vanessa is probably the closest we're gonna get. Penultimately, in at number 2, Finally Dead. The true ending is seemingly one of the scariest parts of the game because it contains a load of things, okay? After making your way into Burn Trap's area, Freddy will be taken over by Afton's newest form, and it's up to Gregory to defeat him by pressing 3 buttons outside of 3 monitors to burn Burn Trap. Players will also need to avoid the animatronic enemies that come for Gregory and then use the doors to temporarily lock them out, and then other things. When Burn Trap is finally burned, the Blob, which was that tentacle monster thing that I was talking about, attacks him to make sure that he doesn't get away. Freddy and Gregory will then be shown escaping and sitting on a hill together. However, if the Blob actually does kill William is a totally different question. There are death animations in the game files, however they aren't used in the ending, so we can't count it as canon. Plus, the whole I always come back thing should have ended with this game from what we understood about the series, but he came back nonetheless, so even logical conclusions aren't going to help us. And if the Blob was going to ensure William's death, it would then have to ensure its own death, so I doubt that it did it. God, just please let William finally be dead for the love of everything in life. Please. And finally, in at number 1, comes back. I think that unfortunately Afton being resurrected or returning in some form or another is inevitable. I don't get why, okay? I think at this point we can move on from this killer. We have a new one, but a load of people seem to think that we need Afton back again. I put a poll up on like the Vanny facts lists that we know during the premiere. And even though the video was about Vanny, only 51% of people thought that she was better than Glitchtrap. And I think that speaks volumes as to who the favorite in this series is. Like, I get that we've grown up with Afton as the killer, okay, but hell, we didn't even know his name until Sister Location. Until that point, we were calling him after a frickin' color, okay? We've known this man's name for like 5 games. That's literally half the series. That's half the time the series has been out. The first 4 games didn't have him, okay? He was just like, he wasn't even a character in the first game. Just a mysterious man that MatPat compared to Nathan Dunlap, okay? Just end him. Finally, please.
Number 10, Michael Afton. So when you start playing Sister Location, one of the first things you are asked to do is enter your name. Almost as a joke that this more free roam game is going to be like an RPG where you can name and possibly customize your character. This joke part comes from the fact that, guess what, you can't really actually do this at all. Because when you go to enter your name on the keypad, whatever you wanted it to be becomes null and void, and instead you are given the name Eggs Benedict because the hand unit is apparently malfunctioning. Throughout the game though, hints are dropped that lead fans to believe that Eggs Benedict is really none other than Michael Afton from a narrative standpoint. Michael Afton is the son of William Afton, and it's also theorized that he came to this place to do something very specific. Number 9, Eggs Benedict's true purpose. Or Michael Afton's true purpose if you prefer. Eggs Benedict, as we said, is widely believed at this point to be Michael Afton, the son of William Afton, who was sent in essence to the Sister Location, or Circus Baby's entertainment and rental, to free his sister. This comes from a variety of different things, but even though it's still, in theory, just a theory, at this point it's accepted amongst the FNAF community as pretty much a straight up fact. There are a lot of theories that are like this in the FNAF community that we just kind of go like, look, I know it's a theory, but it's not a theory anymore. It's established because we all decided that. And honestly, there is tons of evidence supporting both the identity and the motive of this character that we play in the Sister Location game. Michael is hoping to help his sister's spirit become free, as it has been trapped for years within Circus Baby. Although ultimately, in terms of the true ending, he kind of fails in doing so, instead getting scooped and then having Ennard sort of stuck within him, along with all the other minds of the animatronics who escaped the Sister Location, because they're all in Ennard, and then Ennard is in Michael. It's like, what are those dolls? The Matryoshka dolls. Just like you keep opening up, there's different layers. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, make sure you have the notifications turned on so you don't miss out on any of this good FNAF content. Number 8, Ballora and Circus Baby. Perhaps Ballora and Circus Baby are the only 2 animatronics who possess souls within Sister Location. They both seem to be implied to have been people, or at least connected to people, and their emotions in life. Ballora seems to resemble the sadness and hope of William's lost love, and Circus Baby is obviously meant to represent Elizabeth, William Afton's daughter, even seemingly being the reason why Michael Afton came to the facility in the first place, in order to free the trapped soul of his sister from within her. Is it then possible, when it comes to the animatronics, that these are the only 2 animatronics that actually possess souls, if you will? If this is the case, what makes the other animatronics sentient? Or are there other victims / individuals tied to those other animatronics that we simply don't know about? I have many theories on it, but yes, I think that overall, I think Ballora and Circus Baby, the only 2 with like spirits or souls in them.
And it's 7 Bonnie. This is an interesting theory from Reddit user u/was-that-the-bite-of-87 on the Game Theorist subreddit a month ago, which actually MatPat just talked about in his last Game Theory on Sunday. The post didn't get much love, but it's certainly interesting. Was that the bite of _87 asks if the Burn Trap animatronic is using the disassembled Bonnie. Quote from the Reddit post. So, I have a theory that Burn Trap is using the disassembled Bonnie robot. Let me explain. So you know how Burn Trap has an intact animatronic foot even though no other Spring Trap or Scrap Trap never had them? Management might have disassembled Bonnie, and there could have been a body of Glitch Trap infected person in there, which explains the dead rotting corpse, and Afton could have taken over, but is weak, which explains why he needs a recharge station. That is all I have for now. It's kind of rough, but considering how Afton's body is still in that robot, which wouldn't be necessary if his consciousness is only in Glitch Trap or if it was transferred into this endo, I don't think that this is actually like the canon. Like I think that if Afton's body wasn't in the robot, you'd be onto something, and like Matt Pat would also be onto something because he also agrees that this should be Glam Rock Bonnie's endo. But his body being in there has to be Scrap Trap, but like heavily burnt. Like sure, he has another arm, but they could have just added an arm onto him. But like the main body of it would have to be Scrap Trap, unless we have like a really messed up scenario going on, which is possible, but it's a kid's game, so I don't know. I mean, like, would Vanny take Afton's rotting corpse and put it in a new endo? I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I think that they just replaced the arms and the legs so that he could stand, because he didn't have his actual human feet anymore. That's just what I think.
Number 6, one of the bites. I can't even believe this one is out there, and still some people believe it to be true. Well, I've looked at the sister location game a lot, and I mean a lot. This was one I had actually never come by before until doing this video. The idea is that the death of Elizabeth Afton, where she gets scooped or, gobbled up or whatever you want to call it by Circus Baby, is meant to be the bite of '83. This is because her death is believed to have taken place in 1983. However, it seems that she wasn't alone in perishing that year, if that's to be believed, because Crying Child also supposedly was bitten and later died in 1983, or was bitten in '83. I don't know if we really know when Crying Child died, but I'm assuming it was the same year. So is it possible that there were multiple bites? Or should we not even count Elizabeth? Do we consider what happened to her to be a bite at all? Typically, bite of '83 is attributed to Cece, but apparently there are those out there who believe that Elizabeth may actually be the death people are talking about when it comes to this still somewhat mysterious bite.
Halfway through into number 5, original mission. The arcade conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find where we learn that something else seems to be going on here. To quote that note, called The Arcade Conspiracy, exit interview. They are working together, the arcades. They're hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time, then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I'm so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. End quote. Now, it's clear that this is referring to the Princess Quest games because they kept talking about the princess, but it also seems to not be talking about them because we don't have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in orders from 1 to 3 and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well, at least according to more lore duffel bags. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater is glitching, or can glitch. Chica's Feeding Frenzy won't turn off when unplugged, but you can find it in the bakery, or at least you're supposed to. And the Monty Golf A-Arcade, that according to its duffel bag shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. You can only access it using a mod that lets you cheat it from the main menu. So I feel like this was an intentional feature that was left on the cutting room floor, where you might have to beat these 3 games by glitching them out, and then you'd unlock Princess Quest 1 and then have to play through the 3. Also, my lowest score on Monty Golf is 14, and the lowest possible score you can get is 13, so I feel pretty good about that. I spent way too long during my stream doing that.
Number 4, Afton's intentions. Let's imagine for a moment that William Afton loved his kids, and that he didn't want anything bad to happen to Elizabeth. It's believed that Crying Child's death happens after Elizabeth's in regards to the whole timeline of this narrative. But what if we have that wrong, and it somehow happened before? It could be possible that Afton simply wanted to lure another child using Circus Baby so that he might take one to act as, I don't know, a sibling for Elizabeth, who was maybe lonely if her sibling had just died. Or it's possible that Cece's death did happen after, as we believe, but perhaps this was how Afton got his own children to begin with, and he was actually looking to grow his family to just give Elizabeth a sister or a sibling of some kind. After all, we're still not even sure as to why the killings happen in FNAF. That is a big question mark. What is happening with that? The killings could have even started as accidents, and we don't really know who the mother of these children is, if they have one. So it could be possible that Afton took them at young ages and kind of brainwashed them into thinking he was their only parent. even though he wasn't their parent at all.
Getting close to the end, and at number 3, you're the new killer. And you know what? This one was right. Well, yes, I did start playing through FNAF VR on the channel. You sure you go watch those. Share and like that video, because I'm not playing the VR game again. Hell no. No matter what you do in the final battle against Glitch Trap, you end up getting stuck in the game while he gets out. And maybe it's not actually the game. It was actually signifying that he was taking over your body and locking you inside your own mind. So, this time he was passing the baton on to you, or at least we thought that he could be, and it was true. I've already said it, right? Like, he was taking over your body, like physically controlling you while you were in your own head. That's what the door was. Princess Quest proved that in Security Breach. We all know this now, okay? We've done the research. I say we've done the research. We played the game. We read the lore bags. We know it's a thing. It's canon. We play as Vanny in Help Wanted, and now we are the killer. We finally got to play as the killer in a VR game, and you know what? I've been wanting that for years. Although I wanted more specifically a Purple Guy Simulator in VR game, because I'm sadistic like that. But you know what? This is okay. I'm fine with this. We get to play as a killer, and it was a theory a long time ago, and you know what? It happened. So, yes.
Number 2, Ballora is Mrs. Afton. Another theory that ran rampant and still is pondered and reflected on even today is the role of Ballora. People believed, based on the lyrics of the song that she sings, that Ballora may actually be the wife of William Afton, or at least was made to represent his wife after she left him or possibly died. This woman could also be the mother to his children. Ballora was perhaps created to fill the void of the woman he loved so much. Or if you want to interpret this character a lot more literally, perhaps she is the mother of his children, who are maybe all animatronics that he built, and Ballora sort of like filled a mother role for them. Although I will say there's not a lot of evidence to support that in regards to how Ballora seems to act with the other animatronics, but hey. Number 1, Clara is Mrs. Afton. Some others believe that Clara is meant to represent Mrs. Afton, suggesting that the soap opera Eggs Benedict, aka Michael Afton watches on his day off, Immortal and the Restless, is actually meant to represent the story of William Afton and his romantic partner. In this story, the main character meant to represent William is a vampire named Vlad, who denies that Clara's child is his, despite the fact that the child has lots of odd behaviors that only a vampire baby would likely be capable of. This could suggest that William was the one that attempted to abandon Clara, but if that is the case, then how did he end up looking after his children? How did that happen? Was he resentful of having to take care of them, and that's perhaps why they met untimely ends? Is it possible that it was all part of William's plot to get rid of them? Are Clara and Vlad meant to even represent Mrs. Afton and William? I don't even know. It's a lot. I think at this point I'm leaning more towards no, but I don't know. I always come back to this and I'm like, is it true? Is it not true? Is it supposed to be a symbol of this or not?
In at 10, Mangle was made from Ennard. Okay, this isn't really a popular theory, or it wasn't a popular theory. In fact, most people hated this theory, but this theory suggests that Mangle was actually made after the events that occurred in the minigames of Sister Location, where Michael Afton barfs up last night's helping of Ennard's spaghetti. This theory seems to point out that Ennard now has plenty of loose and missing parts that could be used to make Mangle. I mean, this is the kind of thing that Scott would have done, but it was also revealed that Baby was kicked out and then she reassembled herself in FNAF 6, and then Ennard became Molten Freddy. So I don't think it has literally any footing at this point anymore, but it's an interesting theory nonetheless. Even if you hate the theory, you kind of believe that it would end up being a thing, even just a little bit. Okay, if I had seen this theory before the other reveals of FNAF 6, I would have probably believed it. And at 9, Real Pizzeria. Before the release of FNAF 4, Scott Cawthon's website was littered with references to the numbers 8 and 7 in the source code. This caused many fans, and even dear old Matt, had to think that these were references to the year 1987, where the famous frontal lobe bite occurred. However, other fans believed that these were somehow coordinates, so after plugging them into Google Maps, which I honestly don't understand how you do when you just have a whole bunch of 8s and 7s, like, I tried it, I couldn't figure it out, but whatever. After putting them into Google Maps, however they did it, they ended up finding a location that it actually gave, and it was an actual pizzeria. Obviously, once this got shared, fans of the franchise started harassing the place, and while it might have been one big coincidence, someone might have caught on beforehand. Kathy Blockus reviewed the pizzeria saying the robots kill. I saw a robot fox killing a kid before in there. Run for your lives out of there. This was actually left 3 weeks before any of the FNAF 4 things were announced, which is when all the 8s and 7s appeared on the website. So while this is incriminating, they also, after saying that, left the place 5 stars. So they obviously are just a fan of the franchise, but yeah. And at 8, real life links. In December of 1993, after Chuck E. Cheese had closed in Aurora, Colorado, Margaret Kohlberg, the manager, was tallying up receipts in the back room. While she does this, Bobby Stevens scrubs down the kitchen, and Sylvia Crawwell, Ben Grant, and Colleen O'Connor all work on cleaning the main party area. However, there is someone hidden in the bathroom, 19-year-old Nathan Dunlap. Earlier that year, he had begun working at this location as a cook, before getting into an argument over his hours, which resulted in him losing his job. He was looking for revenge. He exited the bathroom and began firing, killing everyone in the building. First Sylvia, then Ben, then Colleen, then he went to the kitchen, where the bullet entered Bobby's jaw, sending him flying to the ground. Then Nathan went to the back, where Margaret opened the safe before being shot twice. Nathan then filled her bag with $1,500 cash, arcade tokens, and keychains. Thanks to security cameras, he was promptly arrested and sentenced to death. Obviously, this was the first MatPat game theory, and you know what? It sucks. It sucks that it happened, but it's still quite interesting. And while it may not be true that these events are linked with the first game and the mechanics of the first game, I still think the stories are so close it's impossible not to consider. Although when he came out with this theory, my first thought was, oh, so all I have to do to make a popular horror game is just find a just absolutely brutal story. And it's 7 ported. Now, one of the lore duffel bags that you can collect throughout the Pizzaplex explains that these Princess Quest machines actually were normally arcade machines. They explain where they came from, and apparently the first one was ported from a mobile game, that obviously being a reference to the mobile version of FNAF Help Wanted. However, the one writing this report also questions why they would port from mobile, and honestly, that's a very good question. If the mobile game had worked to capture Vanny, like in the mobile version, why make it more accessible? Couldn't you have just kept it on the phone and buried the phone or something and made it so much more difficult, even potentially impossible, to free Vanessa from your control? Like, what was the point of porting it to an arcade cabinet if it's only going to make it easier for Vanessa to escape your clutches? I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. I've tried to be an asshole before, and I wasn't able to, and I think this is why. Like, I cannot physically be a bad person, because if I was capable of doing that, I would be unstoppable. That's why they made me the hero, because if I was bad, no one would defeat me. I'm too smart. In at 6, Withered Bonnie wants your face. In Withered Bonnie's jump scare in FNAF 2, we can actually see him reaching towards your screen, as if reaching for your face. I mean, to be fair, he is missing his, and the other animatronics attack if they see an endoskeleton, but if he had an exposed endoskeleton, why would he attack another one when they're one of his own? Withered Bonnie is also essentially reaching for the Freddy mask that you have on your head, maybe thinking that it can use it to prevent others from attacking him, since his frickin' face is missing, making him absolutely terrifying. Actually, now that I think about it, like, what if the reason they're attacking you is because they can sense the remnant in your body? Maybe, in fact, you do get scooped before becoming the night guard at these pizzerias, and now you look like you should be in a suit because Ennard is inside you, or maybe he's already evacuated at this point. I don't know, it seems like a stretch, but I figured I would put it out there. Halfway through in at number 5, Ultimate Custom Night. I think we all know where William Afton he deserves to go, okay? One-way trip downstairs, or as Henry said, although for one of you, the darkest pit in hell has opened to swallow you whole. So don't keep the devil waiting, old friend. I'm still waiting, Afton. And you know what? We thought we had gotten rid of him. We thought that William was in hell for Ultimate Custom Night. However, this proves to not be the case when the Man Room 1280 was released, showing us that instead William had only been in a coma like his son years before. However, this time winning was him waking up instead of dying, only dying when he explodes in the Fazbear warehouse and creates Glitch Trap, but apparently this is no longer what happened. Because did William really possess a hard drive and become sentient code, or is there something more going on here? While yes, weird things in the series can be explained away with, oh, it's FNAF, or like a dream theory of something, but like, no, I'm not doing that, okay? That's the coward's way out, and I'm not a coward for the most part. Although I don't want to play horror games, but like, just Look, if Afton is in Burn Trap, he shouldn't be able to be Glitch Trap. The Ultimate Custom Night is just Burn Trap being in the pod. It's what he's seeing when he's in the pod. So everything we thought we knew about Ultimate Custom Night doesn't count anymore. And that's hella annoying because, you know what? We thought we had something. We thought that we had finally figured out one thing about this series. Then you know what Scott says? Up yours! And for the Cult of Afton, another theory that I saw from Matt Bat in Help Wanted's Curse of Dreadbear DLC. In Help Wanted's Curse of Dreadbear DLC, you are tasked with collecting 4 keys from a corn maze while Hollow Foxy chases you. Or I guess Jacko, or not Hollow, no, it is Hollow Foxy. It should be Jacko Foxy, but whatever. Well, if you end up finding all 4 of them, a 5th one appears, a glitchy one. And if you manage to get it, it unlocks a cellar, which looks like the barn that acts like the hub of the game, but it actually isn't, because it's a cellar, not a barn. Either way, this time the banner is torn up as if it's been decaying for years, and then there's a bunny mask sitting on the table next to an unlit candle in a circle of potentially blood or maybe red candle wax. Well, you put this mask on and your breathing slows and relaxes, and then the DLC is complete. When you head back to the prize counter, you can wear the mask there again, but if you do this while holding Glitch Trap's plush, you actually seemingly start having a conversation with someone, but you can't hear the other person, you only hear you. This led Matt Pat to believe that there is a cult forming around worshipping Afton, and maybe even trying to bring him back from hell. And I mean, Vanny brought him back from hell. Maybe she's just not the only one that's possessed, right? I mean, they're gonna have to do something now that we have no idea what happened to literally any of the characters. So, who knows? I sure as hell don't.
Number 3. Elizabeth's death. Is it possible that Elizabeth's death wasn't William Afton's fault at all? What if Circus Baby was tampered with and this is ultimately why she killed Elizabeth? It's believed that before Elizabeth died, in the same year no less, Charlie was also killed. Charlie is the daughter of Henry Emily, aka Cassette Man, who was also at one point William Afton's partner. Although it seems unlikely at this point, it's possible that Henry was actually the one to blame for Elizabeth's death, and could have sabotaged Circus Baby as a means of getting revenge on William for the death of Henry's own daughter, Charlie, which many believe Afton was actually behind.
But ultimately, in at number 2, special delivery indoctrination. Okay, in the few cults that I've been a part of, we always have an indoctrination, something that you must complete before being able to join the group and ascend to the next level. But what would a cult surrounding praising a man who has sent animatronics after children do? Obviously, it would make you need to survive them. And sure, there are the normal games, but like we don't compare those to real life, right? You need something that's more mobile and accessible. Everyone has a phone, and while it's easy to stay in one place, you can actually move around while using the AR on your phone, making it a more difficult challenge, but also a more telling test of your skill and problem-solving abilities. Plus, they gotta know that you can kill kids. So hey, maybe FNAF AR is not actually, we're not playing as families who are ordering these rogue animatronics. Maybe we're just joining the cult. Finally, in at number 1, ignore Help Wanted. This is very much wrong, but finally, still on about the Cult of Afton. Maybe they were trying to get him out. Originally, we thought we were supposed to ignore Help Wanted because it was trying to reboot the series. We had no idea what was going on next, and you know what? At the time, it seemed plausible, but now, it's not. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Help Wanted is fully canon, despite how confusing it may be. I don't know how you're like putting a sentient code version of a serial killer back inside of his original animatronic with his own head in it. Like, I don't get that. I don't know how that's possible. I don't want to know how that's possible, but you know what, this dude has been burnt so many times. I think that he just needs to accept it and move on. I've said this in literally every other video. Afton just needs to die. Please, save me this suffering. I can't do this again. Or give us like a, what's the one with like, what's the game with Phoenix Wright? You know, like that lawyer game? Let's just do that, but it's like Afton's trial, so that I can be a better lawyer than Amber Heard's. And at 10, Princess Quest 3. At first glance, the Princess Quest 3 game obviously takes place within a pizzeria. You can tell thanks to the doors and the floor design. It's pretty obvious. However, what I think is quite neat is the fact that this isn't just any random Fazbear location. It's actually the main menu hub from FNAF VR. The prize counter is behind us with the same design, the stage is at the top, and Pirate's Cove is to the left. There's a door on the right, which would be the door that Glitch Trap comes through, and the final door in this room is also the stage, which is where Glitch Trap is standing when he attacks you. And then the final door of this version of Princess Quest is the one that we got sealed behind in Help Wanted's ending. So I think that it's pretty safe to say that this is the Help Wanted main hub. And at 9, Failsafe. The whole reason that Princess Quest is a thing in this game, it was to lock Vanny away and prevent her from regaining control of her body. So why did they create a sort of failsafe that allows her to escape? I mean, sure, they didn't expect a kid to come along and figure it out, maybe, but that's like having a self-destruct button on a bomb that you plan to use, and that you also want to make sure that nobody can stop you. It's just stupid. Like, if you want something to work, why would you give it away to fail, you know? This is one of the dumbest things that Afton has done. And it's probably the second dumbest thing overall, the first being kids in his own damn pizzeria. But seriously, what's the point behind having a way to undo your evil plans? If you don't plan on keeping Vanny under your spell for that long, or even alive for that long, couldn't you just like choose to release her? You're like, okay, I'm gonna like let go of this body now. Or why didn't you just like bring Princess Quest 1, 2, and 3 all the way down to Afton's charging station so that nobody else can access it? And then when Afton's done, you'd be like, okay, you're free. And if Vanny won't bring them down because she's still part Vanessa, just have Monty do it. Like, seriously, people, why am I the only smart serial killer? And I haven't even killed anyone. And it ain't Glitch. Now, there are very few really popular theories about Princess Quest because honestly it seems fairly cut and dry, but I think I have something that could be an interesting concept. In the first trailers to the actual Security Breach game, we hear Vanny's voice glitch out multiple times, but that never happens in the game. But why? My theory is that Vanny's voice could have been glitching out more because we were completing the Princess Quest games. If they wanted to continue that theme in the game, they could have, and as we progress through the story, we could end up hearing her glitch more and more. However, they had to keep the scope of the game smaller than they probably wanted to, despite already increasing the game size, and after all, they did release it unfinished. So could this have been a planned feature? It would have been really cool, and it would have been a way to show us what we were doing with Princess Quest was actually having an effect on her, but I don't know if they planned it like that, but I think it would have been cool if they did. And it's 7, Dream Theory. Most of you, if not all of you, have heard this before. The theory that everything we have seen in these games is a dream. Sure, Help Wanted gets meta and kind of puts this theory to bed, but what if all the things that we were seeing is still a dream? What if it's not the crying child in his home or in a hospital room waking up every morning? What if it's William Afton dreaming about the insane things that he plans on doing and how well it works out? Well, to him, it would be working out because he's a lunatic. But like, time works differently in dreams. You could go a whole month of your life and wake up and it's only been 6 hours. And sure, you're able to control your dreams to an extent, but that's very difficult to do. Once you realize you're dreaming, for the most part, you wake up. So what if he's only considering killing kids right now? And this is his mind telling him not to do it, or to do it, because again, he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Or there is another theory that we are still dreaming through Crying Child, where he is just now further into the dream, trying to justify what he saw so that when he wakes up, he isn't terrified. Or he played the games and then actually had real nightmares about them. And at 6, the Aftons. In the best ending, which is the Princess Quest ending, there are quite a few confusing moments. The most confusing one for me at least being the idea that Gregory would go get ice cream with Vanessa once she's done trying to kill him. Why would they do that? Some seem to think that it's because they're related or representing the Afton kids. And thanks to MatPat, there is a little more evidence to this. The ice cream that Vanessa gets while on the hill is very reminiscent of the ice cream cone that lured Elizabeth into Baby's arm grabbing or scooping range, whatever you want to say. And the cone has like the normal like soft serve, like you know when you go to Dairy Queen and you like order a cone but you don't get it dipped. It looks like that, except this time it's mint chocolate chip, okay? And it looks a lot like the tall soft serve cone that Baby presented Elizabeth in order to lure her closer, and then you know just... Is that evidence or just a coincidence? That depends. What kind of leans it towards more evidence is the fact that Vanessa isn't the only one with a potentially symbolic dessert in her little clutches. And thanks to MapApp for pointing this out, Gregory also has a popsicle. A Freddy popsicle to be exact. You know, like those SpongeBob ones that never look right, but that dude on TikTok was going around until he found one that looked perfect. But this time it's Freddy Fazbear. And the lighting of the sun here makes it look very golden in color, as if it was a reference to a certain yellow bear that could have had something to do with Crying Child's death. And if this was meant to be Crying Child, this could be a good way of indicating that. However, it only gets better, because Gregory has taken a bite out of the head of this popsicle, which could also be a reference to how Crying Child met his unfortunate fate, because you know.
Number 5. Afton's mistake. There are also a ton of theories when it comes to what caused Elizabeth's death. Was it a malfunction of the animatronic? Was it intentional? Many people attribute Elizabeth's death to William Afton, her father, suggesting that he perhaps even did it on purpose, possibly cracking, or that it was like an accident perhaps, due to faulty programming, or too good of programming maybe on his end. There are a lot of smaller theories at play when it comes to the belief that Afton was the one ultimately responsible. Possibly he had designed Circus Baby to trap other children, but then why say that he designed Circus Baby for Elizabeth? Did he mean to kill her? Or was it just that the programming in Circus Baby was too strong and still needed some tweaking, some reining in, so the death was perhaps accidental?
In at 4, 3 stars. There are 6 possible endings in FNAF Security Breach. Each ending is rated between 1 and 3 stars. There is an ending that is considered the canon ending, although interestingly enough, it's not 3 stars. Endings other than the bad ending require extra conditions beyond leaving the Pizzaplex, but there's only one ending that has 3 stars. That ending being the Princess Quest ending. Upon defeating the game within the game, the ending scene will start, where Princess Quest 3 gives an error screen to Gregory. He then leaves Vanny's lair to see that all the bots are decommissioned and Vanny's mask and little bow tie are on the ground. He exits the Pizzaplex with Freddy's head in a duffel bag, and then Vanessa is also helping him out, which is again weird. The epilogue scene then shows Gregory, Freddy's head, and Vanessa sitting on the same hill as Gregory and Freddy do in the canon ending, which is also very close to the hill that Charlotte's grave is on in FNAF 6's ending, and the two are eating ice cream and then Freddy's just kind of sitting there. But this is the only 3-star ending in the game. Why? Obviously that makes it have some form of significance, but we have yet to know what it means, officially speaking, because this isn't the canon ending. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Wanted, dead or alive. Forget it. Because, yeah, you know what? This is actually a good question in this case, since I don't know if Afton is alive or dead inside of the Burn Trap suit, okay? He was alive in the Spring Trap and Scrap Trap suits, as we learned from the man in room 1280, because he was possessed by the one you should not have killed. But did he finally get put down after FNAF 6, or is he still kicking? Okay, his body is still present within the Burn Trap suit, or at least it partially is. His skull is still there. So, what's the consensus here? I don't know. The existence of Glitch Trap seems to imply that he's dead in the suit, but Ultimate Custom Night suggests that the one you should not have killed is still possessing him, which would be what he sees in the recharge station, which would mean that he's alive, and not because of the recharge station, but because the one you should not have killed would still be possessing him, which they would only do if he was still alive, since if we're being honest, the only reason that Afton was possessed was so that he could suffer, so being possessed after he's dead isn't really gonna do anything for Crying Child, because that Crying Child is definitely the one you should not have killed, not Cassidy. I'm saying it, okay? It's a thing. And the one you should not have killed would not be controlling Burn Trap to take over Freddy and turn things evil. It just goes against what we know about the character. So, I don't know at this point. I feel like he's probably still alive, but just barely. Although, that means that Glitch Trap shouldn't exist. Penultimately, in at number 2, Cassidy. According to one adamant viewer on my recent 24-hour stream, there's a theory that the princess in Princess Quest is actually meant to be Cassidy. And while I don't agree with this theory, it's still a theory nonetheless, so I might as well talk about it. This theory generates from some apparent files from within one of the games. I'm guessing it would be Security Breach, given that there are 3 games in this one compared to the FNAF VR mobile port where there's only the one Princess Quest game, but apparently according to this viewer those files indicate that it was Cassidy. I don't know how they indicate it, They wouldn't elaborate, they just kept spamming the same message in chat, despite me saying that I don't care that whatever YouTuber or whoever is saying that they found that, since this is clearly not the case. However, nonetheless, they still said it. The only reason I would possibly believe this was for purely symbolic reasons, since Cassidy is trying to torture William, at least if they are the one you should not have killed, which would end up giving her motive to free Vanessa from William's control. But that's the only reasoning I'd be able to think of for this theory, which makes it seem more like a hypothesis to me, especially because I believe that Crying Child is the one you should not have killed. And finally, in at number 1, Vanny. This is the theory that I truly believe, and that I'm pretty sure has been all but confirmed. Vanessa is certainly the princess that we play as in Princess Quest, since this game was used to lock her away in the first place in both Help Wanted as well as the first version of the game in Security Breach, which is just a recreation of the one that you play in the Help Wanted mobile port, to further solidify that connection. There are also lore bags mentioning how Princess Quest was an arcade machine that was ported to the arcade machine medium from mobile, and they couldn't figure out why. So this is clearly the game that we dealt with in Help Wanted, and since we played as Vanessa in Help Wanted, it only makes sense that Vanessa is once again the princess we're playing as, who inevitably gets caught by Glitch Trap. And then we have to fight our way back out to our body, as indicated by the sword we get in chapters 2 and 3. The biggest piece of evidence here is the final door. That is in essence an exact 16-bit replica of the door that we get shut behind in Help Wanted's true ending, which we again do as Vanessa.